Ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you. If you'll bear with me for a moment. I apologize for the late start. We're just waiting to get some more people into the venue. This is going to be a live broadcast. So because of that, I'm going to ask if you don't mind coming to the front just to fill the space here in the front of the auditorium just for the live recording. So please, if you don't mind, if you can make your way to the front, please. The first three rows, please. Can we fill those? In fact, first two. And can we move to the center as well, please? Please, can I ask you guys to come? Yeah. Let's try and fill the first two rows, please, everybody. And in the center. Can I ask all of you guys on my left-hand side to move in, please? Tabang. This is your seat here. Thank you, Tabang. All right, thank you so much. We're going to be starting at exactly 9:30. Yeah. Thank you.
This one. Then you speak.
All right, we are going to go live in about 2 minutes. If I can ask the room to get ready, and that means putting all our cell phones on silent, please. It's a very good morning to you, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Samay Zake, and I will be your MC for this morning. Welcome to this special live broadcast of the 18th IST-Africa Conference that is currently on the go at the CSIR International Convention Center. A special welcome also to our viewers who are watching us on Business Day TV, that is DSTV channel 412, as well as those who are joining us on the various online platforms. Hosted by the Department of Science and Innovation, the three-day conference brought together senior representatives from leading public, private, education, and research organizations to discuss ICT policy, showcase research results, and share knowledge. This year, the conference focused on the increasing importance of digital technologies in public service, work, and citizens' daily lives post-COVID, assessing how digital solutions can boost economies, enable infrastructure development, support SME development, and underpin youth development, as well as health service delivery, among others. The conversations over the past 2 days centered around the theme, Transforming Lives Through Digital Innovation. Now, senior representatives from leading public, private, education, and research organizations have been engaging in a number of important conversations focusing on e-health, next-generation computing, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, and blockchain, to mention but a few. I'm sure you can all attest to how the COVID-19 pandemic has fast-tracked the digital age, whether you were a learner, an employee, or an old-age pensioner. The COVID-19 environment forced us to embrace digital technologies at a very rapid rate. The post-COVID environment has not changed that. Many sectors continue to work in remote environments, relying on technology. Commerce and many public services have also embraced the new technology. The rapid pace of technology has demanded that all nations embrace the change. South Africa and the continent is no different. Sessions at this conference will tackle topics like blockchain for the public service and industry, the adoption of digital payments by spaza shops, for example, and mobile payments for digital finance in rural areas are among others. This morning, the conversation will focus on ICT-enabled entrepreneurship. It is a fact that the majority of jobs on the continent will be driven by entrepreneurs, making it critical for them to embrace technologically driven environments. Chairing the session this morning is Obakeng Khatsweyo from the South African affiliate C4IR Center, South Africa, based at the CSIR. I'm going to hand over now to Obakeng to drive this morning's panel discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Sumay, and welcome to our guests and our esteemed presenters. So, without probably wasting any more of your time, I'd just like to maybe put a thought through that we can take during the session today. So, I wish that for the session today, let us just envision a future where South African youth are on the forefront of technological innovation, where digital skills are accessible to all, and where entrepreneurship serves as a catalyst for sustainable development. So when we engage with our presenters today and their presentation, let's have that kind of innovation and thinking behind so that we can then take this out of the sessions today and it be something that we take back to our own communities and try to impact the change we want to see. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like then to call on stage Ms. Lorna Mutegi. So Lorna is from the organization called Strathmore University, that is in Nairobi, Kenya. Her presentation is titled, Assessing Kenya's Technology Innovation Ecosystem Towards Digital Entrepreneurship Success. So a bit more about Lorna. Lorna is currently pursuing a PhD in Information Systems at the University of Cape Town. She's also been involved in various projects that are focused on research areas, including digital entrepreneurship, digital skills, data science, financial inclusion, women empowerment, ICT, and sustainable cities and more. So with that, can we just give Lorna a round of applause?
I'm recording this. Good morning, everyone. My name is Lorna Mutegi from Kenya. I'm currently doing my PhD in Information Systems at the University of Cape Town in South Africa. I've been here a lot in South Africa. I feel like South Africa is calling me. You guys should give me a name by now because I come here a lot. So I'll be presenting about this paper is basically a small section of my thesis. So I thought that it was important for me to assess Kenya's digital innovation ecosystem. And the goal there basically is to try to highlight the enablers and disablers of the ecosystem, which could essentially hinder or enable digital innovation success. So when I say digital innovation, I will use it interchangeably with digital entrepreneurship. So the motivation behind this research, I did another paper, a systematic literature review, and from that, the results of that paper, I realized that a lot of research on digital innovation success is based on the global north. So there's this tendency to try and explain the success of digital innovations birthed in the global south using the Silicon Valley narrative and Western theories. And the challenge with that is that it causes contextual, challenges because when you try to force a narrative that is foreign into the local context, you might miss out on a lot of things. So doing this ignores the validity and the relevance of epistemologies of the South. And this could also pose contextual fit challenges, especially when applied to studies based in the global South. An example of this, Kenya is commonly referred to as the Silicon Savannah. A number of researchers disagree with this christening of Kenya as the Silicon Savannah, and they propose the use of the term digital savannah. Also, context matters a lot. For example, the proliferation, English is not my first language, forgive me. The proliferation of and adoption of digital technologies in developed countries appears to have undergone a gradual process. But in the global south, like Kenya, we see technologies arriving together and being adopted and assimilated quickly by a group, particularly the youth, who are seen to be tech savvy, who are seen to, looking for opportunities to thrive and succeed. So when you compare these two environments, we cannot possibly explain digital innovation success based on Silicon Valley narrative or any other ideal models from the West. And therefore, the gap that this research seeks to address is the need for a study that assesses the Kenya digital innovation ecosystem towards basically highlighting the enablers and disenablers of the ecosystem that could affect innovation success. So the objective of this study, I think I've alluded to this, to provide an empirical assessment of enablers and disablers of Kenya's digital innovation ecosystem. And the second one was to lightly establish the differences between the ecosystem, the two ecosystems that I've mentioned, Kenya's innovation ecosystem and Silicon Valley. Another study could choose to differentiate the Kenya innovation ecosystem and other ideal models like the Silicon Valley, the Silicon Cape. Again, the use of the word silicon. Yeah. So the methodology, I used semi-structured interviews. I was able to interview the first set of 20 respondents, and these include subject matter experts from industry, government, and academia. I sought consent, of course, from them before interviewing them. The interviews ran for not more than 45 minutes. As this data was being collected during COVID, I had to use various tools, Zoom, Microsoft Teams, and the challenges with those tools when I was trying to understand the transcripts that it was providing, there are many errors because we are not native English speakers. So the way we pronounce certain words, these tools could not be able to pick the meaning or whatever the respondents were saying. So there was a lot of challenges trying to clean up the data, and it took a lot of time. So the period within which the data was collected was between 9 months, from January to September. So after the first set of 20, I interviewed 2 more people just to check for saturation and to make sure that there was nothing that we were missing. Also, I used document reviews to be able to confirm some of the information that was being given by the respondents, basically to fact check, and also media analysis, where, again, during that period, there was a lot of work being done around digital innovation that was being streamed in various platforms and on YouTube. So that information was also very, very relevant to this study. So all this data, the transcript was fed into NVivo software, and I did a thematic analysis, which is basically a process of identifying patterns or themes within qualitative data. I have a lot of information about outcomes and results. I can see you're looking at me too. Yeah, so I'll try and touch on the key ones. So for me to be able to assess the ecosystem, I did a bit of background review to understand the Kenya Innovation Contest, and also to understand the regulatory frameworks and whatever is happening, or other government agencies that have support science, technology, and innovation. And these came along. So there is an Industry Property Act of 2001, and the goal of that act is basically to encourage and protect innovations and innovations in Kenya. And under that, there are other similar agencies that you can see there. And then there's also the Science, Technology and Innovation Act of 2013 that seeks to facilitate the promotion, coordination, and regulation of progress of science, technology, and innovation. And under that, there are other agencies, NRF, NACOSTI, Kenya, which was recently launched. And under Kenya, they have various programs that they are doing there, and one of them is the Kenya Innovation Bridge, Kenya Innovation Week, and the Innovation Fellowship. These ones are actually pretty new. When I was doing my literature review, these ones were not launched yet. And an interesting fact, in the work that I do at Strathmore University, we were working with Kenya to be able to put these two together, launch the Kenya Innovation Bridge, and also an innovation fellowship that could be able to build digital skills or other technical capacity, particularly focusing on the youth. There's also, Kenya was among the first two people in Africa to be able to sign the African Continental Free Trade Area, which is very key in supporting digital innovation success, particularly giving access to other markets. There's also STI policy of 2020, the Kenya Vision 2030, which is commonly known, and this vision is mostly appreciates the role of STI as the core in building a knowledge-based economy. Then there's also the Kenya Digital Economy Blueprint. And when you talk about education, the free primary education, there are many challenges there, but also I think it has managed to achieve something in giving access to education to people who would have otherwise been left behind, though there are many challenges that I would not want to focus on in this presentation. So the outcomes and the results of the interviews that I did. So I did this background to confirm whatever people were mentioning in this resort during the interviews. So this output is from document reviews and media analysis. So this is the feedback that I got from the participants or the respondents. So how they view the Kenyan innovation ecosystem, they characterize it as being comprised of the youth, which the youth form over 75% of the population. And this group of people are referred to as the cheetah generation. This term was used by one of the respondents, but also it is a term that is common, again, in the Silicon Valley, and this is basically young people who are seen as vibrant, well-educated, tech-savvy, and with international exposure. Then also, the ecosystem is said to have been pioneered by the rise of innovation hubs and university technology incubation centers, such as at IST-Africa, which is part of the organization that I work for. And also, early innovation activities were said to be driven by telecommunication companies, such as Safaricom. They ran a number of boot camps and coding boot camps and hackathons that gave young people an opportunity to learn and also to develop and collaborate and develop initial digital innovation solutions that we were seeing in the country. And because of that, Safaricom is known for M-Pesa. So most of the hackathons that they were supporting, there was a lot of development of fintech solutions. And even right now in Kenya, the focus is mostly on fintech and agri-tech. Also connectivity and internet. Kenya prides itself again for having the largest undersea fiber optic cable. I think right now we have like 6, but then again, access to certain areas, particularly rural areas, is also a major challenge because these ones are concentrated in urban areas, particularly Nairobi. Academia, there's activity also going on there, and they're seen as the pipeline of human resource. And also other enterprise support organizations are doing something again in that environment. Also, So I've combined the enablers and disablers in my results because you realize if something is missing, then it is a disabler. If it is present, then it is an enabler. So all of them are mixed up in my presentation. So the Kenyan innovation ecosystem also was reported to be grant-driven or NGO-driven ecosystem. And some of the respondents view this as a negative thing because that diverts the focus of the innovation from addressing the local issues and local challenges. And the focus is now on the grant, getting the money. Again, because of the profile of the digital innovator, this is a young person with other social issues and social challenges and other demands. They need money to not only develop a solution to a local challenge, but also take care of themselves, take care of family, etc. There's also a mention of Kenya having foreign influence, and also the innovators are said to have international be international minded, and some viewed this as also not positive but also negative. The positive aspect, when you're approaching investors, it was reported that you needed to speak the foreign language or the language of the investor, the language that they understand. And one of the disadvantages of that was that the focus would now be on what the investor, the foreign investor, wants you to say more than what the local people want solutions for. And also the advantage of that is that the exposure makes you, again, attract this foreign investment. Then government agencies, all these agencies that are mentioned here, there is a lot of duplication of effort, and there was a couple of the respondents mentioned that all these agencies work in silo, and this has a negative impact or a negative implication on digital innovation success. Modern day brain drain also, it was mentioned that the unicorns of digital innovation in Kenya are domiciled in other economies or in other parts of the world, particularly Delaware. And maybe whatever the reasons behind that, as reported again by the respondents, is that the environment in Delaware is more conducive and more familiar to these foreign investors, and also more conducive for business, particularly because of the taxes and the laws, especially when you have issues around that affect tech startups. Then technology startup funding was also reported to be very difficult, and I could quote this person who said, financing is a very difficult thing to come across in Kenya, many social, and then there was also a mention that there is many social enterprises, moving from aid to trade, those are also another challenge. And also majority of the tech startups in Kenya are at early stage, and early stage funding remains a major challenge. Also local funding from local people is also a major challenge because they do not understand the startup, the tech startup or the digital innovation ecosystem and the model. So the business model of the tech startup is not very clear to these investors. Then policy and regulation, I think I mentioned a couple of things, but one key thing that was said to be hindering success is uninformed and debilitating policies and regulation. For example, the startup bill, again, respondents noted that the government does not understand what a startup is, and even many initiatives geared towards supporting startups or MSMEs that use leverage on digital technology, they do not understand the model and how these startups need to be supported. Also, there was a bill, ICT practitioner bill. Yes. So one of the other objectives was to compare the Silicon Valley and the Kenya innovation ecosystem, and we could use these parameters basically. And of course, Silicon Valley, of course, checks off on all this, and the Kenya innovation ecosystem touches briefly on that. So a recommendation for this study for you to comprehensively, again, compare these two ecosystems, then you need to do a longitudinal research study. Then, yeah, I think that's it from me. I'll take questions. You could also send me an email to misslmotegi@gmail.com with more questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Lona. I can see a whole lot of passion, and I see that we're doing injustice to you with the time allocation. But I think the most important thing is that you've laid the foundation and you've opened up room for us to can engage. So with that, we're going to ask the audience that maybe we take questions. We can note them all down. So we allow all the presenters who can go through the presentation, then have an opportunity to engage them all fairly once they're done. I think we're all happy with that. So thank you very much, Lona. And now that we've had the academic side of things, we want to also give you the view from the industry. There's always sometimes a belief that sometimes academia doesn't necessarily speak to what industry does, but we've tried to do a balance of both so that what academia says in terms of papers, research, and all those, and the experience to say what does industry. Ms. Bongekile Filana is from the National Youth ICT Council. Her presentation is titled Accelerating Digital Transformation Through Tech Entrepreneurship and Building Sustainable Ecosystems. So just about Bongekile. Bongekile is a civil tech activist who is passionate about rural and youth development. For the past 3 years, she's been working on sustainability and innovation space and driving digital skills initiatives within organizations like UNESCO and Youth Economic Alliance. And her work on digital skills have benefited and impacted more than 300 young people in South Africa, more especially young women in this particular case. So over to you, Ms. Bongekile.
Thank you so much. As I have been introduced, my name is Bongekile. I'm the chairperson of the National Youth ICT Council in South Africa. It's actually a privilege and honor to be here speaking in a Youth Month where we celebrate young people, where we celebrate the braveness of young people. So the National Youth ICT Council has been working with the Africa Policy Research Institute, which is an NGO that is based in Germany. So we're doing a lot of work around how do we strategically position the African continent within the accelerating digital transformation. So also looking at the initiatives that can actually assist us to digitize the services in the African continent. So the work that we have done is basically to try and get evidence-based work to see what are the challenges that are impeding the digital transformation in the African continent. But then through those initiatives or in research, we have generated some information in the challenges that are faced by the African countries. And some of these challenges are actually happening, like if you check in Kenya, if you check in Rwanda, or you check in South Africa, these challenges are keeping on occurring. So those challenges are just the issue of no access to internet to reach digital opportunities. We talk about young people who are not employed because they don't have access to digital opportunities, but we do not really talk a lot about the issue of digital divide. So the issue of no internet access is actually a big problem for them to reach digital opportunities. And lack of digital infrastructure, we hear our government talking about accelerating cloud infrastructure services. So, but then the issue of digital infrastructure in other countries, when we look in other countries like Zambia, we will see that there's actually no digital infrastructure to sustain the work that is being done within the digital transformation. So the other issue is access to value chains as we talk about startups. When you talk about startups, there are value chains that needs to be established The procurement environment needs to be friendly for startups to participate in the digital economy that we're talking about. No access to venture capital, and this is actually what Lorna is also raised. So the lack of entrepreneurial skills, because that's what I want us to focus on today, the lack of entrepreneurship skills. We know in South Africa there's National Skills Fund, but they are not focusing on entrepreneurship. So how do we make sure that we massify digital skills? So today I just want us to talk about how do we make sure that young South Africans are actually positioned at the center of industrialization that we're talking about, at the center of access internet initiatives as ISP. We know that South Africa has SA Connect project where SMMEs have to do internet service providing. So we need to position young people at that project, because you cannot talk about industrialization, but you don't put them at the center of development. So we also said that young people need to be positioned at the center of digitizing services. We know that South Africa now is moving from doing things with a normal way, like handing over a CV, but there are portals and tech apps and also e-commerce platforms that have been created to digitize services within the country. So we need to put young people at the center of the development if we want them to participate. So I want us also to talk about massifying digital skills and with a focus of digital entrepreneurship, and also taking this thing of digital entrepreneurship as an opportunity to make sure that young people participate in the economy of their country. We always talk about youth economic participation, but if they don't have the necessary skills, how are they going to participate in a digital economy that we're talking about? So the work that we have done also, it was just to check the environment, the regulatory framework. Is the government doing enough to make sure that young people are actually participating in the entire value chain that we're talking about? And when in the few weeks, I think it was in Zimbabwe, when there was a Smart Africa Conference, and His Excellency, the Secretary General of the Africa Free Trade Area, asked people if what is the work that is being done within the digital innovation. And he said that while startups in the African continent are emerging with their innovative ideas, but what is lacking within the continent is local, national, and regional ecosystem to sustain those innovation solutions. And what is lacking in the African continent is also an environment that is conducive for these innovative solutions to be scaled up. And also what is lacking in the African continent is the fund to make sure that we scale up and also we diffuse the innovation ecosystem within the African continent. So I'm just going to also remind everyone that the future of this African continent lies in its inability to develop and nurture the innovation ecosystems. Because we can talk about startups, we can talk about innovative solutions, but if there's no ecosystem that is going to sustain them, then that's going to be a challenge. And also in South Africa, the issue that in the work that we have done within the research, we find that in South Africa, in the context of South Africa, National Skills Fund must fund digital entrepreneurship initiatives. What we have discovered is that everyone is doing entrepreneurship, is doing digital skills initiatives, but there's no coordinated effort. You don't see what is the focus. For example, even in South Africa, if you look at our digital ecosystem, the growing market is on fintech, but the focus on digital skills doesn't speak about how to make sure that we utilize the tech apps that are being developed by young people, the systems that they are doing, the e-commerce platforms that they are creating, the portals that they are creating. So how do we make sure that we take advantage of those innovations? Because we have a lot of fintech solutions in South Africa, but no one is raising their hand to adopt the solutions. So what we are saying is that It must be a government that is going to say, we are going to adopt this e-commerce platform to bring services to the citizens. It must be also a private sector that is saying, we are going to support this e-commerce platform, because there are a lot of solutions within the fintech space, but no one is there to adopt and use. And we live in a world where technology is changing everything. All the sectors are being critically disturbed by the transformation that is happening. So if you look at from the fishing and to the forest and manufacturing and financial services, all the sectors are being interrupted or disturbed by the digital transformation that is happening. And jobs are being lost if you don't have the necessary digital skills. Hence, we are saying that there must be massifying of digital skills. We have, fortunately, in South Africa, a national skills fund. And also, we said that we should create a culture of entrepreneurship and strengthen IP ownership. As I was talking about fintech solutions, those fintech solutions are not even registered. So young people, they don't have the copyright. And also, we must position digital hubs at the center of improving local production. We talk about technology localization. So if you talk about technology localization, you want devices, modern devices, to be developed in the country, within the country, and be used and adopted within the African continent. So you need then to make sure that you improve the local production capacity as we talk about localization of technology. Also, the companies that are offering the startups investment fund or the venture capital, they need to be incentivized by the government. And also we talk about South Africa expanding localization support fund. We know that the IC has a localization fund, but that fund, there are also regional frameworks that are impeding young people to access that. So if they don't have that information, of assessing other markets, like taking advantage and leveraging on AFCTA opportunities, and also having funds to improve their products and also the competitiveness, we won't be able to do anything. And as the SG of the Africa Free Trade continent said, that the future of this country lies in its ability to nurture and develop the innovations that we have. And African people are just generally creative, so we need to leverage on that. And the future of this continent lies on us young people. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Lorna. I also could tell and see the passion in what you're speaking about. It's interesting that from both presentations that we've seen now, one thing that has emerged for me is the fact that irrespective of whether you're from Kenya or you're from South Africa, we all have the same problems. Now, if we need to solve these problems that we have and try to improve our surroundings, I think it's all about us having to collaborate and work together. There is no point in us having all running in silos and doing the very same programs, but not bringing them all up together to can benefit the value of us as being Africans. So with that, I would like to then move over to say to Rakeni Mziza. Of interest from this subject and how these topics or presentations have been prepared is the fact that now that we spoke about what is the problem, we spoke about the challenges of the industry, now we move into the fact of saying, how then do we monetize this? We cannot be developing apps forever. We cannot be doing things forever. The issue becomes, how then do we make value out of this? So the theme for Brakeni's presentation is monetizing the digital world era for the benefit of the underserved. So background about Brakeni, as I say, Kenny, he is widely known as Brakeni and a born entrepreneur who has great vision and sees opportunities where others see challenges and difficulties. His career as a businessman spanned almost 21 years, and during the time, he has built, run, sold several successful businesses, and always moves on to other becoming lucrative business opportunities. So over to you, Brakeni.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for this wonderful convention. and I've learned a lot. And let me speak on the business side. And from what I've learned, I'll also pose 2 questions to you. Our part as a company, I'll just, go quicker. We are in last mile broadband wireless connectivity using TV white space. And when we connect, there is also a challenge, obviously. We need to actually put the content. Our target market mainly, it's schools. So I won't talk much about the other part of the business, because we are also in cybersecurity, because we need to protect the networks that we build and the content that we actually load on our network. So, motivation of my presentation, to me, I'll call it, it's a pitching point why I went into the business and why did I specifically choose on a connectivity, last mile broadband wireless connectivity. The information that you're seeing in my slide here, it's in the public domain. You don't need to be taught. Everybody that is in here, part of your presentation, part of your research, you are talking about that. So I'll move fast on that. But this highlights the now and the future opportunities in ICT-enabled entrepreneurship. This is still the motivation. And if you look at all the points which has been highlighted, look at 4.9 billion counted as internet users at the moment, still hundreds of millions may only get a chance to go online infrequently via shared devices or using connectivity speed that limits their usefulness in their connection. And through to this evolution of digital era that we're in, there is a lot of opportunities. I'm talking about on the business side. And we rely on researches that you're doing, the technologies that you are developing, the systems that you are developing, so that it can be applied in there. And on that, I'll also ask you, how are you aligning your research with the now technology and the future, considering this ICT digital era that we're in? Consider that when you are actually doing your researches. And then I'll come to how to monetize ICT digital era while saving the underserved. On our side, what actually motivated on our side, it's actually looking at what technologies are already been there. We've got beautiful, robust technologies developed on the African soil. I've traveled extensively looking for the best technologies. I've been in South Korea, ICT incubation hubs, looking for technologies. Only when I come back, I meet somebody say, but we already have a solution like this. So I really need to appreciate the work that you're doing. It is, work that needs to be applauded. And to me, where I've actually positioned ourselves and our company is to integrate. Look at the best solutions, the best researches that we've actually developed, and actually combine them and to deliver a certain solution that actually addresses the African challenges the African way. They are the best technologies developed in Silicon Valley, in South Korea, Japan, wherever that you may mention it. But they've never, some of the best technologies or the developers, they've never stepped their foot in African soil. They don't see what we see. They don't experience that we experience. So it takes us who knows our challenges now to appreciate the technologies, the solutions, the research that we've done to combine, to exchange notes, and to develop a solution. So in plain language, I believe in selecting the good technology and actually commercializing that, build the solution that will be appreciated out there, and that's where now you say you are now building the business. That's the monetizing part comes in. As I've already said, our part, we actually look at existing technology which has already been developed, and the systems that are already developed, and then we assess to say how can we integrate and which technology can we integrate with this to address a certain solution. What we see on this solution, we're actually doing our pilot project in the rural areas. We've done in the game farms, we've done in the rural villages, we've done in unconnected schools. We've also done in tracking of the animals using the connectivity, and then using also the drone to fly it on unlicensed spectrum on the TV wide space. So what you see is the team actually in the field doing that. And after that, we actually now come to implement once we see that we are happy, and the users itself also, they are happy. So the market approach, you've chosen your technologies, you've actually integrated them, you've created a solution that will address a certain problem, and then you now have to look at cost effective. How do we make that solution affordable and usable to the people? Now we are developing now the proper business looking at what you've actually put in together. So here you said, after evaluating the effectiveness of the POC, we believe in the proof of concept. Whatever that we integrate, we go out there in the field, we test it, and we get the feedback from the people. And then on the connectivity side, I would just mention on that, we've done, the content that we've actually chosen to load on our network that we'll be building, it's education content. Because we'll be focusing in connecting the unconnected in the rural areas, but after we've connected them, then we say, let's now put the content. But the first priority on our side is on the schools. So on the schools, we are not working as a silo. We are still aligning ourselves on SA Connect and then e-learning and e-government, because after that network has been fully developed, the education content has been loaded, it can simply be plugged to the main e-government on the e-learning sector. So when you're also developing your solution, you need also to ask yourself, which will be, will the solution or the system that you are developing now be sustainable or be still usable and relevant in the next coming 10 to 15 years? So that mentality also is the one that a business might need to have when you're actually choosing the different solutions and technologies that actually addressing a particular problem. Now, once the POC has been successfully deployed and part, now that's where we develop the business model, and then the business model should be a solution-based, which has been applied in the real scenarios and be validated by the consumers or the users. This is what we believe in, and this is what has been driving our company success. I'll put the links in there because the time is very short. If you can take a picture on that, you see our video company presentation on the first link, and then on the last link, it's the link that actually shows one of our success stories. We just signed, okay, before I go to that slide, we just signed with one of the big companies. It's online education company, the first in the world to be listed on the stock exchange, and this is the company that we've partnered with to actually provide this education content. Our minister, when he was opening this function, this conference, he actually said Africa should actually also invest in developing the IPs. This is one of our IPs. While we're packaging the solutions that we're choosing on a TV-wide space, we saw that the company that we've partnered with, their solution, it was not just a plug and play. We have to customize it to make sure that it can be applied on African continent. There was little things that were supposed to be changed. We brought them together, we formed an ad hoc team, we redesigned it, redeveloped it together, and when we actually come up with a final product. They were happy, we were happy, and we said, let's protect this. And this is our IP under Africa for TV white space devices. So we're not just importing and selling, but we are developing technology. But we actually rely on people like you, the academia. So this is 2 months ago, where we signed an agreement with a Korean online education listed company. The company is called Visang, to promote digital education, which will be added to connectivity network as a content in Africa. So also on this is the company, well-known, been in business for over 54 years. They started as a printing company, printing educational books. But we said, we like their technology, but it's not a plug and play. At the moment, we are already doing the customization. We've got different syllabuses in South Africa and any parts in Africa. If we have to take it to Botswana, for example, Kenya, we need to understand the education system in Kenya. We need to understand the education system in South Africa to load the proper education content on our network. So, in conclusion, connectivity is an enabler for digital solutions, which ensures sustainable development. And you know, great uptake among young people bodes well for connectivity and development. The urban and rural gap, though less severe in developed countries, but it remains a major challenge for digital connectivity in the rest of the world. On average, 71% of the world population aged 15 to 24 is using the internet, compared with 57% of all other age groups across all regions globally, suggesting that local labor markets will become progressively more connected and technology savvy, and the younger generation enters the workforce. So whatever that we're doing, on the researches that we're doing, keep that in mind. It's a new, younger generation that is actually coming into the workforce. So I end there. That's my single presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mziza. I feel bad every time I have to come up here and be the one who's a bearer of bad news. I look at the audience and how you are all glued up to the presentation, and I feel I'm doing an injustice. However, maybe it's a call that I have to make to the organizers for the future conferences. Maybe we need more time. I think the topics that you choose are very interesting and key to the audience, that we need to give them enough time to can engage on them, and so we can learn, we can teach each other and impart the knowledge that we have. So I as much as I'm a bearer of bad news, I take note and I will pass the message. So with that, I'll then hand over to our last speaker, which it's nicer when you're listening to this presentation and how they gel. I still feel that Brekeni's experience from industry and what Africa needs, it still talks back to what all other previous speakers have said, which we're still saying that we need African solutions for Africa. And there's not beating about the bush. We need to collaborate. We need all to come together to that. But there's always an issue of trust that comes into play. Do we trust the technology? Do we trust the governance of technology? So with that being said, I'd just like to call upon Ms. Nosipho Mobailwa, who's from the University of Pretoria, and her presentation is titled Building Trust-Based Dynamic IT Capabilities, the Case of State-Owned Enterprises in South Africa. Currently, Nosipho is a risk and compliance senior specialist at one of the public sectors in South Africa, and she is busy pursuing her PhD at the University of Pretoria. So over to you, Nosipho.
Thank you, Obakeng. Thank you for the opportunity to come and present my paper. This paper is in the context of a state-owned enterprise. There has been issues regarding trust in terms of state-owned enterprises. We know that state-owned enterprises, they are the pillar of South African economy, and they are expected to ensure that they have efficient service delivery. However, there has been a negative publicity on the media in regards to state-owned enterprises, especially related to trust. You find out there are issues regarding corruption, where there are fraud investigations and issues related to mismanagement of funds, leading to wasteful and irregular expenditure. There are issues related to environmental violations, issues related to political interference in these state-owned enterprises. All of these, they lead to loss of trust. A loss of trust, it is a common problem within organizations, not only in the public sector. And there has been research done in regards to loss of trust. However, trust is still not well understood. Okay, delving deep in terms of the research organization, there has been perceived trust-related issues in the research organization related to trusting beliefs such as openness, integrity, history of interactions, benevolence, competency, and dependability. Trusting beliefs are very fragile, and they can be easily influenced by negative experiences. I'll mention a few of these negative experiences at the research organization. You find out in terms of the relationships, the intra-organizational relationships, there are issues or concerns where corporate IT would make capital investments without involving the other IT departments, which means that they are not open in terms of their dealings and they are not transparent, which affects trust. There are issues in terms of where positions are being filled regarding the associations, not in terms of what people know. So when that happens, what does that mean? That means that those people who are placed in those positions, you can never be sure in terms of their competency. You can never be sure how competent are they in terms of deploying IT-enabled capabilities. Also, the integrity of leadership is questionable. There are also issues where there are delays in transversal projects where IT-enabled capabilities are deployed. That means that now for corporate IT is the one leading these projects. You find that now corporate IT is not dependable and is not credible. There's also an issue in terms of benevolence, where you find out the organizational structure that is already there disempowers corporate IT because the GMs in the other operating divisions do not report directly to the corporate IT GM, which means that when that happens, the local GMs within the operating divisions, they will only ensure their local operational entity requirements are taken into consideration when the projects are being initiated, rather than ensuring that they ensure that the whole organizational requirements are taken into consideration. So this is detrimental in terms of trust. Okay, given the problem that I've just stated, the research question is, how do IT inter-organizational trust relationships between IT departments shape various IT-enabled capabilities? The main focus or the objective of this research is to develop a conceptual framework that assists both academics and practitioners to understand how IT intra-organizational trust relationship can enable or constrain the development of IT-enabled capabilities. It is also to provide recommendation in terms of improving these trust-based IT-enabled capabilities. Okay, in terms of the research approach that was followed, this is an interpretive research approach that was used. The research strategy is a case study within IT departments. It's within a logistic organization based in South Africa. The sampling method that was used is purposeful sampling, supported by snowball sampling. The sample size, we had interviews with 30 participants. The data collection method that was used, we have 2 data collection methods that we used, which is the primary data collection method. It's the semi-structured interviews. The secondary data collection method is the documentation. The data analysis, we use thematic analysis supported by Atlas TI as a tool that we use. Okay, moving on to the results. The organization has embarked on digital transformation strategy to implement innovative solutions to enable and enhance the organizational capabilities. They have done that to improve, I'm going to mention the few of them, to improve visibility and utilization of operational assets using Internet of Things. They have also tried to enhance the customer interactions and relationships using digital assistance systems. They have also tried to track consignments throughout the value chain using mobile application. And also, they are in the process of improving operational efficiencies and processes, and also leveraging on big data and analytics, and also trying to digitize the operations as a whole. There has been in terms of the results, where it was discovered that there are certain environmental factors that impact trust in this research organization. I'll mention a few: talks of privatization, reorganization, the fact that the organization tends to lose leadership at some point in time, recycling of leadership. This causes environmental uncertainty. So what does it mean? The employees within the organization, they end up having low morale because they're not sure in terms of the direction, the strategic direction of the organization. They will also be unsure in terms of the intention of the leadership of the organization. When that happens, you find out now there's destabilization and there's a disruption in the organization, and that leads to loss of trust. There has been some enablers and constraints that have been identified within this research organization. I won't mention all in respect of time. For example, the lack of skills that is rampant in the organization, the issue regarding the culture that is there. You find that the culture is not collaborative, it's competitive, where each operating division is competing with the other operating division rather than collaborating and cooperating as one ICT. There are issues in terms of synergy where the IT departments, they work in silos and they are fragmented. There are issues in terms of the IT infrastructure that is there, the obsolete technology that is there, the fact that systems are not integrated, and the environment tends to be inflexible and rigid, which will make it difficult to deploy IT-enabled capabilities. Okay, in terms of the findings, one of the findings is that organizational environmental uncertainty decreases the likelihood that IT-enabled capabilities can be deployed in this organization. The contribution is that trust-based IT-enabled conceptual framework. And lastly, there have been some recommendations that have been provided. I'll mention a few to ensure that there should be joint problem solving between the departments, the IT departments. The skills should be renewed within the organization. There should be some strategies to ensure that there is collaboration between departments. I think that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bongegile. Like they say, in order for any car or anything else to work like a well-oiled machine, there has to be trust in all components. if we need to use the African continent as a vehicle that drives change, we need to be trusting each other. If we need to use these applications that are developed, whether it's locally or internationally, there has to be a trust factor that goes into it. So I think it will be very unfair and an injustice of us to can only allow you to can sit here and listen to presentations without necessarily giving you time, even though we don't have much, to just have maybe a question or two. So if there is maybe all those who do, I'm going to hand over now to Simei to can facilitate the process. So what we ask that if you want to ask a question, you could probably raise your hand on, then you can lift up the microphone there from the device. And there's a green button that you can just click, so it will make you audible to that. So over to you, Simei.
So we're going to go very quickly through these question and answer sessions because we are out of time. So if you do have a question, can you just raise your hand so I can spot you in the audience, and then keep it brief, and we'll try to get through as many of those as possible. I've got 1, 2, 3. Let me start there. If you can, just lift up the,
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the opportunity. I just have 2 questions, but one question. Okay. On the focus on entrepreneurship and skills, and this is directed to the whole panel, I just wanted to ask, are we teaching young people the right skills that are in line with the global trajectory of the world? So in South Africa, we can't, maybe at this stage, we're still teaching people how to use a computer. But if you look at other developing nations and your China, your USA, they are teaching kids how to work with AI, machine learning, teaching them Amazon Web Services, teaching them all of those kind of skills. So where are we in terms of that global trajectory, and are we in line with that? Thank you.
All right, let me take the second question.
Thank you, Chair. My question goes to Ubra Kenimsiza. With the current pilot that you have in rural schools, are you planning to expand that project to the general community around those schools? Because I would assume that you've already set up the infrastructure, so it will be very feasible to extend that connectivity access, particularly speaking to Cis's points to say, let's expand digital access as well as digital opportunities to the youth. Thank you.
And the gentleman, just press the green button.
All right, thank you. My question is directed to the first speaker. It's a very simple question. And I'm asking this question because the rest of the speakers have also alluded to the same challenge of competition, lack of trust, and lack of cooperation. So I just want to find out from the speaker her experience on the collaboration internally within her country, Kenya, and also that Africa has established a free trade. What has been your experience in terms of cooperation in the area of innovation within the context of Africa?
All right. Thank you very much for those questions. Who would like to tackle the first question? Go for it.
Thank you so much. I'm just going to answer the question on the digital skills. In South Africa, there's MICT, I think it's an entity within the Department of Science and Innovation. And also there's National Electronic Media Institute of South Africa, which is NEMISA, that is under of Department of Communications and Digital Technologies. They have been tasked to work in implementing the national skills strategy in terms of the skills of the future, so they are doing that work. But to come to your question, what is happening is that our focus in South Africa has always been on after you have passed matric. We don't have any strong and vibrant STEM project or initiatives to make sure that even a grade 3 learner knows how to program a laptop, they know how to assemble a computer. So our focus has always been on post-matric, and that's actually a big issue. That's why you see that even in terms of output in the work that we do in the innovation space, it doesn't actually go to the commercialization stage because we don't have that capacity. We only take them when they are not doing anything after the matric. So that's the issue. And even within the skills, we don't have capacity, we don't have any significant contribution to the issues of like the subject of AI. But even though now I know communications department has just launched an AI lab, but that even that is only focusing on university students. So what about those who are not even have capacity to go and do the university path? So we don't have other paths for them to actually participate in the digital economy, and we just teach them how to write an email when we talk about digital skills. So we really need to be aligned with the global landscape and what is happening within the global stage in terms of future of works and what is on the demand in the markets in terms of digital skilling.
Okay. All right. Mr. Msiza, the question about the current pilot program, and if you can just keep it brief as well, we are running out of time.
Thank you very much for your question on the pilot. Your question, it's focusing on if we are considering expanding to the nearby settlement to the schools in a connectivity, right? Yes, we are not considering. Let me also use this opportunity to actually extend the invitation to the audience. At the moment, we are looking at adopting 4 schools. We have done in Mpumalanga at the moment, but we are also looking at across, the country, be it in Western Cape, Eastern Cape, KZN. We haven't yet identified the schools, but we are on that. We have that program that we want to actually expand. And then we're not only schools, we are also looking at connecting the libraries, public libraries. We are also looking at connecting the rural villages, the chiefs, and the North settlement. So it's quite a big program that we are embarking on, but we are moving step by step. On our own as a company, we can't do it without the involvement of the government, and as well as because some of the areas we need to also to get a permission and a blessing from the government itself. In Mpumalanga, we work with a local municipality. The project is going very well, but we want to expand. Our ultimate goal for the POC, it's to actually be known that we have the workable solution or the usable solution that benefits the unconnected, benefits the rural community. And then from that, it's when we can say we've achieved our business goal. But at the moment, we are just investing on the POCs to make the public aware that we have the solution that works.
Thank you very much. Lorna, the last question goes to you, and I think that's about the experience on collaboration in Kenya. If you can keep that brief as possible, please.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much for that question. I think before I touch on that, I would want to touch briefly on the first question on digital skills. I think it is important for us to, when you've gone to university or you work or live in the centers, in cities like Nairobi, like Pretoria, we can speak from a point of privilege and forget that there are people who actually need access to basic digital skills like learning how to turn on and off a computer. So I think if we try to compare ourselves with the global north or with people who are privileged, to learn how to use computers from birth, it is going to be, we are going to leave some people behind, particularly people in the rural areas. So it is very important for us to have programs that start from beginner level to, give an opportunity for these people who don't even know how to turn on a computer, who have never, used a smartphone or any digital device or any ICT device first, so that we can now begin to teach them on emerging technologies such as AI, IoT, data science, etc. So basically, we need to be very careful not to, try to chew more than we can swallow, particularly because in this digital skills issue, there remains a big gap, and the digital divide, even without talking about the gender digital divide, the gap is still big. Then concerning collaboration, to my question. So my experience on collaboration, I think I mentioned the Kenya Innovation Bridge. And this bridge basically is sort of like an innovation marketplace that will provide various stakeholders, particularly digital innovators, academia, industry, and government, an opportunity to collaborate and work together and build digital solutions that address local problems. Again, to address the challenge where we see most local companies and industry assimilating foreign solutions and trying to customize them to the local context. Why not give an opportunity through this marketplace to local digital innovators for them to be able to, address whatever business, real-life business challenges that local companies are experiencing. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So we're going to wrap it up there, but just to say that indeed the presentations have been interesting. I think for me, the issues of the digital divide and the challenges that these pose to our citizenry, and not to mention the implications for entrepreneurship and startups, can obviously not be overstated. The opening that Lorna made, I think, was quite apt, where she said context is important as we look to develop these various technologies, adding that, for example, Kenya refuses to see itself as Africa's Silicon Valley, but rather defining itself as a digital valley, developing solutions for its economy and the African continent. I think nurturing innovation ecosystems on the continent has to be a priority as we look to position Africa and Africans at the center of digital entrepreneurship and development. The challenge then is to both government and the private sector, as stated, to drive a culture where we nurture and develop the innovations that we have. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our session. We have run out of time, unfortunately. For those who have joined us live on the various streaming platforms, thank you so much for joining us. We will, of course, continue with our deliberations here at the CSIR on this final day of the 18th IST-Africa Conference, being hosted by the Department of Science and Innovation. And once again, a round of applause for our panelists. Thank you very much. All right, now we're off air. Ladies and gentlemen, I've got to ask you, please, we need to get this venue prepped for the next session at 11. So if you are going to be leaving, if you can make your way out quickly. Thank you very much.